Peace and greetings. Presenting the Network of Awareness podcast radio station, providing in-depth information on society and culture in America and abroad, bringing you truth messages of inspiration, keen insight, reputable interviews, and so much more. So now, for the truth you've been waiting for, your host of the Network of Awareness podcast, ORRA, the informationalist.
Yes, peace and greetings. Welcome to the Network of Awareness podcast radio show. And peace and blessings to all the brothers and sisters on this wonderful Faith Over Fear Friday. This is ORRA, the informationalist, owner and founder and host of the Network of Awareness. And I want to thank you for joining me on this pre-recorded podcast, episode 79 of season 4, the Twindemic. And basically it's a term that the United States fifth arm of this very draconian society that we live in, called the commercial media, which is the smoke and mirrors media, which we're going to heavily discuss today, which I haven't done an episode like this in a while, so I thought it was about that time. But Twindemic basically is this whole thing with the flu season integrating itself with the Caca 19 season. Or should I say Caca 2021? Or should I say 2022? Whatever. I lose track of all their numbers and all the mumbo jumbo. So this whole Twindemic thing, we're gonna really tackle it, make some sense of it, bring some awareness to it. We're also going to talk about the welfare system a little bit, because when I pulled this segment, I thought it was very interesting. I had two great segments of, I guess, a 20-minute or 21-minute broadcast and the nightly news. And of course, many of you know that when I do use the commercial media, I do like to use the nightly news, which I'm going to do that tonight. Or should I say today, but you're going to be receiving this at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, what I'm going to start doing, people, I'm going to start releasing episodes daily. And I'm not going to specify a time anymore because my schedule is a little hectic these days. So I'm just going to put out episodes 5 days a week and sometimes 6 or 7, because I'll put out bonus episodes and just keep it going until we reach season 5. Season 5 is going to be action-packed with a lot of interviews. I'm going to go back to my normal routine of interviewing people all over the world. And I got a long waiting list. So we're going to have it pop off. We might even have it pop off towards the end of this season, where we get to our 400 episode, which is drawing very near. So, brothers and sisters, I want to welcome you to this episode called The Twindemic. Some more shenanigans, right? From the United Shenanigans of America. All right, let's go, brothers and sisters. Let's make it happen. Faith Over Fear Friday, baby. Let's start it off right.
Just tell me what's happening to me in plain English without the mumbo jumbo.
Nothing like this. Stage screen radio.
You are now tuned in to the Network of Awareness.
So, welcome to the Network of Awareness, and this is called the Twindemic. And brothers and sisters, this is not going to be a lengthy episode. That we're going to get right to the point of things here, just because this stuff is serious. I'm going to cover 3 different topics that I think are relevant and important. One is inflation. which I'm not going to get too much in that because I covered that on erroneous economics. But what I will say about the inflation, brothers and sisters, is that it's getting worse and worse by the week. So I'm going to touch on that. But the main focus that I want to touch in and really bring awareness to is this Twindemic thing. And like I keep telling you, brothers and sisters, this medical tyranny that we are seeing is unprecedented like never before. And it's very persistent and it's not going to stop because it's part of that spiritual warfare. And it's also part of the process that they have to go through in order to eliminate you know who. So I want to make that very clear. And because I am releasing this episode on multiple platforms that I normally wouldn't, just because I want the message to get out, two things I'm not going to do is I'm not going to use any curse words. So that way it goes out to a larger spectrum of an audience, which normally I would put on the explicit. But this particular episode, I really want a lot of kids to listen. So I'm going to speak in a lot of code and I'm going to speak very direct, but I want people to understand that this, not only that kids should know, because I feel like the kids are educating the parents these days, but also for the adults, because there is a warfare against us, people, and we are in it. We are in this battle between good and evil. And you have to pick a side on what side you're going to be on. And there has to be a certain level of responsibility and accountability when it comes to these matters because they are a matter of life and death. So this first segment I'm going to play is about this Twindemic that we really need to be concerned about in regards to the smoke and mirrors media. So let's get a little brief introduction to this and then I'll chime in when necessary.
In 60 seconds, the urgent warning about the flu as health officials prepare for what could be the most dangerous outbreak in years. Dr. Rochelle Walensky on the rising cases.
Dr. Walensky, let's go. Now, of course, they want to play a commercial right away. So let me mute that real quick so we don't have to hear this guy trying to tell us about how he's a YouTube creator. All right. And let's skip that and get back to business.
Back now with a warning from health officials that this flu season could be the worst in years. Tonight, CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky speaking one-on-one with our Miguel Almaguer about the alarming signs and appealing to Americans to get vaccinated.
Just as hospitals nationwide brace for a wave of flu patients, some emergency rooms are already starting to see the early, rapid, and perhaps dangerous start to the flu season. Tonight, the CDC director telling NBC News the numbers are higher than expected.
Flu activity is starting to increase across much of the country, with activity highest and increasing the most in the south and the south central parts of this country.
Boom. In the South and the South Central. Now, why is she saying that? I wanted to stop it right there, brothers and sisters. Now, thankfully, there is a large population that listens to the show that's from the South. So to all my peoples from the South, pay close attention to this. Because, you see, this is all by design. So the fact that in the United States, statistically, everybody that lives in the South has least taken the science appliance opposed to other parts of the country, like the North and the West. So keep that in mind when she's saying that the people that are at highest risk are the people in the South for the flu. Well, why would the South be at higher risk for the flu when we have the best weather in the wintertime? I mean, literally. We have 60 to 70 degree weather or 75 degree weather. Like, how is that bad? And how does that cause for flu? When you have other parts of the region where it gets extremely cold and people are more susceptible to getting sick. Let's not forget to mention that people are going to be stuffing their face with candy, which is going to be a high increase in sugar, and people are going to get sick from all of that. Let's not forget about Thanksgiving with all of the nasty foods that people are going to be putting in and stuffing their face with. And then on top of that, you have Christmas. And this is a never-ending cycle. Now, pay close attention that when she made that statement, obviously, she didn't even tell us why the South would be more susceptible to getting the flu. So what that tells me is that it's because when you do get the flu, or if you go to get a flu shot, guess what else they're going to ask you to take? It starts with a B and it starts with a V. If you haven't taken the V, if you did take the V, they'll give you the B. Just letting y'all know. The science appliance. Or they'll give you an accelerated science appliance, sir. Let's continue.
Though most flu cases go unreported, CDC data shows a steady rise in weekly cases, recently quadrupling, far more ominous than the previous 2 flu seasons when Americans...
Of course it skyrocketed because for the last 2 seasons, the flu didn't even exist. Remember, brothers and sisters? Why? Because it was all about gaga, you know what. It was all about that. It was about gaga 19. So since it was about gaga 19, of course, it was like, hey, we have the lowest rates of flu outbreaks in recorded history. Oh, no, duh. Because you decided to focus all your attention on gaga 19. So all of a sudden, the flu wasn't important anymore. Didn't even exist. Now, with literally the flu being at 0%, now we've skyrocketed up to 300%. What a coincidence. But we all know what there is no such thing as coincidence.
We're taking precautions.
Not everybody got flu vaccinated last year, and many people did not get the flu. So that makes us ripe.
Sometimes when I hear these people talk, I'm just amazed how society watches this stuff and actually gives it attention in the sense like they take it seriously. And that's why I do what I do, because you can't take this seriously. You literally can't. Because taking it seriously is an insult to your intelligence. But how is it that there was nobody getting the flu last year, but now you're predicting that since they didn't get it last year, they're definitely going to get it this year. So you know what we want you to do? We want you to take this jabini, you know what I'm saying? And we want you to take this jabberoni. And then you got a tenderoni. All right? So I find it interesting that they're going to introduce the term Twindemic. I said, what a great title for the show, Twindemic. I might even do a part 2 to the Twindemic because I like the title so much.
To have potentially a severe flu season.
As the CDC launches its new vaccination campaign, with Dr. Walensky getting her inoculation today.
Yeah, she's getting her, her alleged saline shot.
A new poll suggests less than half of Americans plan to get a flu vaccine, and it comes as only 5% of those eligible have taken the latest COVID booster.
Ding, 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 ding. Tell them what they won, Johnny. A brand new jab. It's called the flu shot. And Johnny, what comes with that flu shot? A bunch of other stuff that you don't want inside your body mixed with a bunch of stuff that you shouldn't have in your body. Oh.
Worried are you that Americans are just facing vaccine fatigue?
I'm very worried. Our job is to meet Americans where they are and to provide them with the best guidance that we can.
And you're doing such a great job, Rachel Holensky.
To improve their health.
With a feared flu outbreak at a San Diego high school causing hundreds of absences,
they are both equally contagious.
Doctors are also worried flu and COVID cases collide.
People, stop sending your kids to school. Keep them absent. Start homeschooling your kids, man. It's just like we're in such treacherous times that literally every aspect of society, when it comes to our institutions within this corporation called the United Shenanigans of America, it is a war zone that we are in psychologically, but also, but also physically. And it's that physical can cost you your life when it comes to medicine and when it comes to the healthcare system.
Fighting at the same time, a twindemic could overwhelm hospitals.
Ding, 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 ding. And that is the password for today. Or should I say the key word of the day is twindemic.
Tonight they are bracing for, but hoping to avoid, another dark winter.
Another dark winter. Listen to what they're saying. Dark winter. Remember what? Every time I tell you, they tell you dark. That dark winter is not just because of the supposed or alleged possible outbreaks that can happen with the twindemic now, the double whammy, but it's also that they can do stuff with weather modification and really mess up the grids, you know? And now you have this whole thing where they did that radiation shelter video in New York, and there's a lot of stuff happening in New York City and in the state of New York where there's just a lot of funny business going on when it comes to that whole taking shelter from possible nuclear exposure or explosion. It's a joke. But there's a reason for everything, and that reason is there to serve you people. That's all I got to say about that.
Miguel Almaguer, NBC News, Los Angeles.
We're back with more after this.
Great. Looking forward to it. So while they play a commercial, I'm gonna cover something else that's very important, something that gets overlooked a lot, and it's in regards to the welfare of our children. So let's hear about what's going on, and this has been going on for years, but of course it's becoming more of a problem, and it's getting far, far worse. And that is the child welfare system here in the United Shenanigans of America.
Every year, Child Protective Services in the U.S. investigate the well-being of 3.5 million children. Almost all of those investigations involve a caseworker visiting a child's home. But some families say it's too intrusive, and couldn't it also be unconstitutional?
Absolutely. All of it is intrusive. The worst ones is when you have somebody where there's like baby mama drama or baby daddy drama, and you know, they have the children with them, they got the custody, and then somebody reports the family or the father or the mother, and then the Child Protective Services go over there and make a big fuss when there's nothing going on. It's just some family member or the ex wanting to rain on the other person's parade, and it causes major, major strife within the family. Anytime you involve government into your family affairs, best believe it's going to get ugly. So let's take a listen to how ugly it's been getting lately.
Kate Snow with more on our series, Unprotected, Inside the Child Welfare Crisis.
We'll go play piano.
Shalonda Curtis Hackett says the call from a caseworker with New York City's Administration for Children's Services, or ACS, was a shock.
She told me that someone called anonymously telling them.
There you go. Someone called anonymously. So a hater. Now, let's not negate the fact that this is a melanated woman, better known as a black woman. And I'm only saying that, brothers and sisters, I want to get that out of my vernacular, calling people colors, because we really have to recondition ourselves with truth instead of staying conditioned with what we know are lies. But for the episode's sake, and for those that are listening, that understand things in layman's terms, she is a black woman. Keep that in mind. Whenever you are a person that is identified as a color that is non-white, then you're going to have even more of a struggle within this demonic system of family affairs, so to speak.
That the children were malnourished.
The caseworker said she needed to come to the family's home to investigate.
I explained, I don't know who you are. I don't know what I'm being, accused of, and you're a stranger, so I'm not going to let you into my home. This is the height of COVID.
What did she say back?
She said that.
See, and I like that. She said this is the height of Caca-19. So I would have said the same thing. I'll tell you, I've done it. if I have to protect myself from the forces of evil that are always trying to attack us in this country, I will use what they've perpetrated to my benefit, like she's doing.
If I didn't allow her into my home, I didn't consent, that she would come with the police.
Curtis Hackett felt like she couldn't say no. During visits, she says a caseworker talked to her kids, looked at their beds, even opened their refrigerator.
It felt like I couldn't protect my family. It felt like...
And just to let you know, visually, her house is immaculate. Those kids look very well fed. Those kids look like they got a lot of gadgets, a lot of computer stuff, a lot of toys, and they're not young. You know what I'm saying? That they look like they're between the ages of 9 and 14. And this is the type of stuff where I tell you people, we are under spiritual warfare. You have to be careful with everything these days, because a situation like this lady's being attacked and she's got a hater. It could be somebody in her family. It could be somebody in her neighborhood. You know, she doesn't know where this is coming from because it's going to stay anonymous. They can't divulge the information on who they got it from. All right, let's keep that in mind.
Like an invasion of our space, our privacy, just our home. And I couldn't necessarily say no.
You felt like you didn't have a choice.
I didn't have a choice. She was going to come with the police and force me to do it or take my children.
It's a system that disproportionately impacts families of color. More than 80% of children involved in
Yeah, no duh. And it says more than 80% as of 2021 of children involved in New York City investigations were Black or Hispanic.
Investigations in New York City last year were Black or Hispanic.
As a Black parent, you are ACS adjacent. Whether or not you've had an investigation, you know somebody. But I thought I did all the things right to not have it happen to me.
When a report alleging abuse or neglect comes in, a caseworker is almost always sent to the home, no matter how serious the allegation. Child protective workers need a parent's permission to enter. In New York, if parents say no, the caseworker can then go to a judge for a court order and may request police assistance. But it rarely gets to that point. An NBC News and ProPublica investigation found of the more than 47,000 cases ACS was involved in last year, caseworkers obtained entry orders or orders to produce children just 208 times, less than 0.5% of cases. David Shallick Klein runs the Family Justice Law Center. He believes some of these interactions violate the Constitution's Fourth Amendment, which protects against unreasonable searches and...
Absolutely, and that's what they do. And then if you're a person that's adamant on them not coming, and then they come with the police, and you're adamant on them not coming in with the police, this is where it gets ugly, people. And this is where you get your child taken illegally. And then what happens is, most of the time, that child will be put into the system and you will have to fight through the pits of hell to get your child back.
Seizures.
ACS is saying that they are being let into the home through parents, through voluntary consent. But if entry to the home is obtained through coercion or under duress, that's not voluntary, and that's illegal and unconstitutional.
Did you ever feel like it was too invasive?
Yeah, at times.
This current ACS employee asked us to hide his identity and change his voice, fearing disciplinary action.
How much pressure is there to get inside the house?
There's all the pressure. It's like if you don't get inside the house, it's kind of seen as a failure on your part.
He says managers often direct caseworkers under them to do whatever it takes to get in.
If you're engaging with a family member who's resistant, you kind of have to make it real for them that there is a problem happening, not just for me as a caseworker, but also for you as a parent. And it will actually go faster if you comply with us. And that includes letting us into your home to do an assessment.
That sounds a little coercive.
It is. It's like, I would say, the velvet glove over the steel fist, so to speak. The implicit threat that, should you not cooperate, then there's a list of more coercive things that ACS can do.
Did you ever say to...
Now, everything she said is fact. It sounds like it's coercive. It really is. All right? Because this is how this country operates. This is how this country was founded, was through coercion. Okay? When it comes with the indigenous people. So this is like this method that has saturated every aspect of government and how this country is run when it comes to our laws and how it comes to bending the Constitution. It's really a big problem. And it hasn't gone nowhere. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. Because when you don't have checks and balances and nobody's getting checked, then it's a free-for-all for wickedness.
Parents, I might have to call the police if you don't let me in.
Oh, yes. I mean, and I've been directed to say that.
A spokesperson for ACS says within 24 hours of a report, ACS is required to evaluate the safety of a child's home environment and make a determination of risk if the child remained in that home environment, and adds ACS always seeks permission before entering a family's home.
What's wrong with going into a home to make sure that a kid's not being abused?
Conceptually, there's nothing wrong with it. It's that you need to follow proper procedures to make sure that it's justified and to make sure you're doing it in the least harmful way possible.
Advocates are now pushing New York to pass so-called Family Miranda legislation, requiring caseworkers to read parents their rights, just like the police do.
Look at that. People, we are under draconian rule. We are under a rule that is so evil that if you really know the people behind it and what their agenda is, it would terrify you. But you can't be terrified, especially like today, where today is the theme of the show is always Faith Over Fear Friday. Well, faith over fear is every day, right? It's an everyday thing. I just like putting themes to the show because that's what I do. I like to be creative. I like to make it attractive. I like to give a certain tone and essence to what I do. You know, these people that have that try to gaslight me and say I was biting off of them, they all been biting off of me in reality. But I don't even take that to heart no more. I actually look at it like I was told by Enlightened Core. It's like when people are imitating and copying you, all that means is that you're successful. So that's how I look at it right now. I don't get caught up in the copycats, in the wannabes. You know, I'm me. I'm authentic. And I'm going to continue to be like that. And I'm going to continue to serve you brothers to the best level I possibly can. And I'm always increasing in levels because I owe it to the Most High that has given me the will and the strength to endure and to continue to do what it is that needs to be done. And we need to be aware and we need to be prepared for this spiritual warfare that can come at our door at any given moment, like somebody just placing an anonymous call on you and saying that you're not feeding your children.
Shalonda Curtis Hackett says ACS eventually determined her case was unfounded.
It was very traumatic for my kids. They aged.
See how she said? They aged. It was very traumatic. Of course it is. It is very traumatic. So even though nothing bad happened, the damage has been done. But you know what, sister? What I would say to that? Even when it's bad, it's still all good. You still got your kids and you get to live another day without these people, you know, up your behind trying to find something wrong where there ain't nothing wrong.
A little bit more than I wanted them to.
Now she educates other parents on their rights.
Bam, there you go. You see? You woke up the sleeping giant. That's all you did, brothers and sisters. Or should I say, all you did, demons. You mess with the sister that got light in her. Now she's like, you know what? I'm going to educate people about this. Congratulations. This is why I tell you, don't get caught up in all the wickedness. Don't act like it's so overwhelming that you can't win because the Most High already won for us. All right? This is all just a formality. We just got to play our part and do what we need to do. And we got to stay upright and stay positive and see things from a positive perspective. But at the same time, we got to understand that this is a matter of principalities. It really is. This is not even about just people. These are forces that are lurking that we can't even see that are working overtime in order to bring strife and major, major suffering. But now she's educating people, so I say good for her.
Kate Snow, NBC News, New York.
Now, last but not least, let me backtrack here because what I would like to do is talk about the rise in inflation. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I have a guy that wants to come on my show that is a Social Security expert, and he educates on, on all the nonsense that's happening with Social Security. Well, I'm going to touch on it here in regards to inflation, and then we're going to end the show right after this.
Tonight, confirmation of what most of us see every time we go shopping. Inflation remains on fire, with prices up 8.2% from a year ago, signaling more painful interest rate hikes to come. Here's Tom Costello.
The Tower Camp for
Okay, let's take this out, and then we'll be right back. They always sneak those commercials in, man. I don't even see them coming. Sometimes I can see them coming, and we'll let it play out.
The flashing inflation headlines early this morning seem to defy expectations.
You can't even say inflation has peaked yet.
Prices for just about everything.
And that's the thing. You can't even say it's peaked yet. It's because it's steadily rising week to week. It's insane.
Continue to climb higher in September, up 0.4% from August, double what economists expected, up 8.2% year over year, the seventh month in a row that inflation has been running hotter than 8%, despite the Federal Reserve's fast and furious attempts to bring it under control with 5 interest rate hikes so far.
And listen, that fast and furious attempt is only creating more inflation.
A lot of your families, things are still pretty tough.
September's price increases hit Americans across a broad range of essentials. Food up 11.2% year over year. Rent up 7%.
Listen, 11.2% on food is insane. That's why it's important that we start transitioning to organic and growing our own food at home and having our own personal gardens, no matter how small, and get in touch, because I'm connecting with brothers that I'm meeting on Instagram that follow me and I follow them. And they got classes on how to drain water from rain and how to basically plant and the soils you need. There's brothers doing some phenomenal work. Phenomenal. And of course, eventually I'm going to get them on the show. But it's so important that we really start straying away from these foods that are so processed anyway, that are not good for us. Why do we want to pay inflated stuff and pay an astronomical amount of money just so we can die slowly? Makes no sense.
7.2%, the largest increase since 1982. And health insurance costs up 28%. That's the biggest increase on record.
We are scrimping and scraping by.
In Delaware.
So real estate and medicine have had the highest rate. Well, real estate has had the highest increase since the early 80s. And then you have the healthcare system inflating on unprecedented numbers. All by design, people. Do not think that this is just happening because it's just happening. It's because they need to bring this place down. And this is what I've talked about. This is how Rome fell. Rome was systematically brought down through its infrastructure. This is infrastructure systematically being brought down. And we need to take this very seriously. So be aware and be prepared.
Cheryl Holden is just trying to pay for groceries and the monthly mortgage with 2 teenage sons and a husband who's lost a leg to diabetes. But skyrocketing costs are closing in.
Instead of one grocery store, now I shop 3 every week. Just trying to look for what's on sale and what do we need for the week.
With inflation the hottest since 1982, the government today announced an 8.7% cost of living increase for the 70 million Americans who receive Social Security checks. On average, $140 a month more. Meanwhile, today's inflation data puts even more pressure on the Fed to raise interest rates yet again next month, affecting credit cards, new loans, and mortgages.
See? It's just more inflation on top of inflation. And I'm excited to see how this election is going to go, not because I care about it, just to see the shenanigans, because a lot of this that's happening right now is some of the worst stuff that's ever happened in the history of this country. So it's just going to be interesting to see how the Democratic Party pleads a case for re-election. It's like, I don't know how they're going to do it, but it's just going to be fun to watch. And of course, we're going to cover it here at the Network of Awareness.
The Fed is trying to move as fast as it can, but if it moves too fast, it runs the risk of tightening too much, which could be painful for the economy.
The reaction on Wall Street today was volatile and extreme. At one point, the Dow down more than 500 points, but by the close, it was up 827 points.
Yeah. And listen, as many of you know, Wall Street is one of the greatest shows on earth. All right. It's one of the greatest dog and pony shows that exist on a planet.
Yeah, the Fed meets again in early November, expected to hike rates another 0.75 of a point just before the midterm elections. It wants inflation at 2%, so we are still a long way off from that mark, Lester.
Way off. And it's just going to, like I said, people, faith over fear Friday, because your faith needs to be on high octane these days. You need to be rooted in the word, as I'm striving for salvation to do that as well. And we all need to be seeking and striving to to gain salvation, because this is a very treacherous place. And as much beauty as there is to have here, this is not really our place of stay. And I'm not just talking about America. I'm talking about this planet. Okay? But understand that they already lost. So this is all just a formality.
All right, Tom Costello, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. So, brothers and sisters, like I mentioned, this is not going to be a long episode. I hope that the information that we discussed today was somewhat helpful and that you got some substance out of it that can help you in maybe some of the things that you're going through, because it's all about awareness, right? It's all about really just supporting each other, staying true to what is true, which is the Most High, and really being compassionate with one another and not losing that spiritual being that's having a physical experience essence. Don't lose your humanity just because a lot of people are. Pray for them, but also be resilient in the struggle. And I guarantee you, we're going to come out of this just fine. So I hope that this Faith Over Friday episode was very uplifting. I'm very excited. I feel good. I feel like, there's so much to do, and what a great time to be alive. So, brothers and sisters, I want to say peace, love, and light. When you live in the present, there's always an opportunity for a new beginning. And don't look for the light at the end of the tunnel, because the light is and always will be within you. So light up the tunnel and find your way through the darkness. This is already information that's saying, Barakatah, peace and blessings, and all praise to the Most High, the creator of all that is and ever will be, baby. Let's go.
This concludes the Network of Awareness podcast. For more information on the Network of Awareness, please subscribe via email to our website, networkofawareness.com, and follow us on Spreaker.com or any other listening apps you use. For any questions about the NOA, email us at ORRA@networkofawareness.com. Thank you for listening to one of the fastest growing podcast shows on society and culture in America and abroad. When you live in the present, there's always an opportunity for a new beginning. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings.